AJ Ryzik here, and today we're going to do a review of Ubuntu 14.10. Now, this has been a hard review for me to work through just from the standpoint that there's not a whole lot in the way of new features. And in fact, if you're coming from Ubuntu 14.04, I don't know that you're going to notice anything different. Some of the packages are updated. You're getting newer versions of LibreOffice and stuff like that. But other than that sort of thing, you're not going to notice the difference here. Been playing with this a few days, and it looks like 14.04, feels like 14.04. Performance feels the same. So it's kind of hard to report on what's new and great and all that kind of thing. Now right here is I've got the official wiki page from Ubuntu, and you see we're now running Linux kernel 3.16. I think it was 3.13 in the previous release, so that's an upgrade there. And I mean there have been plenty of changes in the new kernel, but unless you're using a fairly recent computer, you're not going to notice the difference. So it's one of those okay, so what for most users. Now if you're into development, having the newer kernel, having that is a big deal. But probably if you are into development, you have already upgraded to probably 3.17, maybe even the 3.18 release candidate. So that like I said, it's probably not that big of a deal on that. And we've got a few other I don't even know if you want to call them upgrades for you, because like I said, once again, the average user is not going to notice. App Armor added support for fine-grained mediation of Unix 7 abstract and anonymous sockets. Okay, for most people, yawn, I don't care. I'm sorry. Yeah, under the hood, it is an improvement, but once again, something most people are not going to notice. Same thing with this updated Oxide. It said that Unity has had bug fixes and feature improvement. Playing around with this for the past couple of days, I can't see any difference here. GTK has been upgraded to 3.12, Qt upgraded to 5.3. That does allow you to add some themes that you couldn't use before because they were based on version 3.12 of GTK. Once again, probably not that big of a deal. And then it kind of goes through some of the other stuff where it's newer version of LibreOffice, Xorg, the stack, all that kind of stuff. So like I said, for most people this is not that big of a deal. Now a lot of reviewers, and myself included, kind of see this as the lull before the storm. To be quite honest, the Ubuntu developers are very heavily involved in getting the new Unity 8 up and running and making it work and getting the bugs worked out, getting applications to work correctly with Unity 8. So in that way I can understand why there's not a whole lot of new stuff that we're seeing right now. And actually that's kind of been sort of a defining trait of the 14.10 series in general, with a couple of exceptions. And in this past weekend I did an article up on my blog page, Aria Prime, and I talked a little bit about that. And like I said, Ubuntu itself, they're working on Unity 8, which is proposed to be the default interface starting in 16.04, possibly 15.10 release. In Ubuntu, they're working on the LXQT desktop. It is not available by default yet, but from what I'm seeing, and I haven't been able to confirm it, probably the 15.10 release, you're going to see LXQT as the official desktop. Haven't been able to confirm it yet, but that's probably when we're going to see it. Ubuntu in 14.10, we still got KDE version 4.14. However, you can download a version with the beta of KDE 5 just so you can try it out. Now, I've downloaded it, played with it. It is buggy. Not everything works like it should, but it does give you a preview of things to come. And it was just released that 15.04 will come with KDE 5 as the default desktop. So, once again, you're getting back to that. It's the lull before the storm kind of thing. So next year it could be a really exciting year for the Ubuntu releases. But now, kind of getting back to more of the same old thing, we haven't seen much changes in this Ubuntu release. Xubuntu, the XFCE spin on Ubuntu, it's kind of in the same boat. There's not really anything new there either. The real developments for this release cycle are Ubuntu Gnome and Ubuntu Mate. Ubuntu Gnome, we go up to Gnome version 3.12, 3.14 if you add the extra PPAs, the testing PPAs, which I've done, and I'm using that as my main desktop right now. Love Gnome 3.14. So I mean, we've got advancements there, and then this Ubuntu Mate distribution, loving it. For those of you that used the Ubuntu back in the old GNOME 2 days, you will love this distribution. In a lot of ways, if you've been using Xubuntu, this is going to remind you of the XFCE desktop, at least with relation to how you add applets to the panel and setting up panels and that sort of thing. But whereas XFCE is very slowly being developed, Mate is pretty active in development. From what I've been reading, probably sometime next year we're going to see GTK3 compatibility, so that'll make it even more configurable, compatible, however you want to say it. Definitely check out my review of that desktop, and I also did a few tutorials on different things you can do to that desktop. It's really showing up to be a real nice distribution. So with all that being said, let's take a look around at what we do have here. Really, at first glance, if you've used Ubuntu since, say, 12.04, this is all going to look familiar. Basically the same icons, the same layout. Unity basically looks the same for the past couple of years. So in that way, it's kind of looking tired. Me personally, one of the first things that I would do if I was using this as my main distribution, let's change that wallpaper, let's put some new themes on there, some new icons, freshen up the look, because it does look dated. It doesn't look bad, but it definitely shows its age. We still have the dash search, and as you see, I have not disabled the online searches, which is actually something that's pretty easy to do. Going into system settings, is it security and passwords? There it is, search. When searching in the dash, include online search results. Just click no. Now it won't pull up anything from the dash or or when you're doing a dash search, it won't pull up anything from online. Now there are some scripts floating around out there on internet so that you can still do online searches, but tracking data is not sent back to Canonical. Personally, I find it just as useful to go and just let's just switch off all the online searching, period. So anyway, that, like I said, that's basically the same. And this is a real good, as far as searching for something in your distribution, this is, I mean, the dash search tool, great tool. You can search basically everything. You can search just applications, files, however you want to go about it. We still have Nautilus as our file manager. Now it's officially called Files, and let's see what version they got running here, 3.10. So it's newer. Personally, one of the things I like to do is swap out files for Nemo, just because it gets you a lot of the features that the old versions of Nautilus used to have but have been stripped out. But there are some scripts that you can add so that you can get some of those features back. By the way, if you are interested in adding Nemo, I do have a tutorial on how to do that. I'll throw a link up on here as well. You can also add colored folders to both Nemo and Nautilus, which is a very useful tool. So let's say you open up your home folder and maybe there's one particular folder, and let's say that this view right here is just filled with folders. Well, you make one particular folder that you go to all the time, make that red. Boom, it's it's easy to identify. Or you can color code folders based on whatever. Pretty useful tool. I got a tutorial on that one also. I'll throw a link up for that as well. Anyway, still got Firefox for our browser, LibreOffice Suite. Still got that, and has been updated to the most recent version. We still have the Software Center, and it is still my biggest gripe with Ubuntu. And for the developers out there working for Canonical, please do something about this. I mean, look, we're waiting. Finally, it boots up. Searches take a while. That wasn't too bad, but I've seen it really slow sometimes. And if you go and maybe are downloading, say, 4 or 5 programs, it'll tend to freeze up because it can't do more than one thing at a time. And it'll have problems with like the Ubuntu restricted extras. It'll always lock up on me when I try to download it via the Software Center, because there is, you get asked the question, do you accept the licensing for the Microsoft fonts? And it freezes up, gets confused at that point. Myself, when I'm using virtually any Ubuntu based distribution, I download Synaptic Package Manager and GDebi so that I can completely avoid the Software Center. Now, I'll sometimes open up the Software Center so I can look at the reviews on a particular piece of software, but as far as downloading software, will not use it. It's just a pain in the butt to use. Of course, we still got the little Amazon store, our system settings here. Of course, that's Synaptic Package Manager. Like I said, that's what I always add to add my packages. And of course, all the different stuff that I've got added here, or all my different drives. Yes, I have that many hard drives on the computer. And let's just take a look at some of the different stuff that we've got by default. Like I said, most of this You know, we've seen this all before. There's a couple games there. Um, on under appearance, let me go and pull this up because this is something you know, it's kind of important to look at here. But you know, from here, it's real easy to switch themes. Um, I like that you can go and change the launcher icon size. So depending on, you know, one, how much stuff you got over on that side, and two, just what your personal preference is on the icon launcher size. You know, you can set all that up for yourself. You know, I've noticed that as I get older, I like larger icons because you know, the eyes just aren't what they used to be. But anyway, so you can go and then also come over here to the behavior side of things. If you want to auto hide that launcher, which is what I typically do. I mean, I leave it on when I'm doing these reviews, but most of the time I like it to auto hide and just make it so you bring that mouse over and it reappears for you. You can change the sensitivity on how sensitive it is. And here's another thing that, you know, it just comes down to giving you the option to work the way that you like to work. Show the menus in the menu bar or in the window title bar. Yeah, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but just being able to, like I said, work the way that you want to work, you know, uh, it's an important thing to add. Let's go back to the settings. We'll look at some of the other things of importance. I like the online accounts. The fact that you can, you know, launch this, add, you know, Facebook, Google Plus, Windows, you know, all those different accounts by default right there. Really nice. Let me go and pull up the settings again. So we already looked at appearance. And you know, and you can see I'm running two monitors right here. I like that it's a real simple, easy to work with to change. You know, what's your main monitor? You know, do you want the launcher on both monitors? Do you want them to mirror each other? Which is your main monitor? You know, all that kind of stuff. And this is pretty standard stuff for most distributions these days. But for those of us that have been using not just Ubuntu but other Linux distributions for a while, remember back in the old days that it was a major pain if you were using more than one monitor to go and set things up for dual monitors and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, it's so cool that you can do it so easily now. I mean, if I wanted to go and change which is my main monitor, it's just a matter of dragging and clicking and moving the stuff around like that. Um, you know, all your keyboard shortcuts and all that kind of stuff. Updating the software, power management, easy printer setup. I mean, everything, you know, it's I guess the way to say it is that we have come to a, at least for this version of Unity, you know, the pinnacle of refinement. Um, you know, for the most part, everything works the way it should, ignoring my big gripe on the Software Center. Um, but you know, everything just works well. It's easy to add software. You know, just like I said, it become a very refined desktop. So big question now is, should I upgrade to Ubuntu 14.10? Now that's a good question, and obviously I can't answer it for you. But just, you know, some thoughts from my experience. One, if you're already running Ubuntu 14.04, you're not going to see differences in 14.10. There's some software packages that are newer, but for the most part, by adding PPAs, you can get that with 14.04. You can add the newer kernel to 14.04. So, like I said, for most people, upgrading is not a big deal. It's not like in the old days when Unity was still in development, and the next distribution that came out, it was a big change. It's like, oh wow, I got to see this new change. We don't have that here, and the fact that 14.04 is going to be it's going to be supported for 5 years. 14.10 is going to be supported for 9 months. Why go to 14.10? Not that this is a bad distribution, far from it. In most respects, it's a mirror image of 14.04, at least for the desktop user. The average user is not going to be able to see the difference here. There's people like me, though, that always got to jump the gun and grab the most latest release, even if there's no changes. And if you are like me in that respect, go ahead and download it. I mean, you're not going to be disappointed in that. This isn't a downgrade. There's just really nothing new here. Well, that about finishes things up for this review. Hopefully you found it useful. As always, give us a big old thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe if you are not already one of my subscribers. If you are a subscriber, thank you for subscribing. Give us a big old thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and be sure to check out some of my other videos. See you next time.